Hello, and welcome to this American History podcast entitled The Federalists in Charge. In our last podcast, we learned about the challenges facing the United States in its first few years. But in this podcast, we're going to be learning about how political divisions between Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson led to the formation of political parties. In George Washington's farewell address, he warned against two things. He warned that political disagreements could weaken the nation and warned that the formation of political parties would be a dangerous thing in our country. That's the first thing he warned against, political parties and against the division that's created by them. He also gave parting advice on foreign policy, that is, relations with governments of other countries. He urged the United States to remain neutral because agreements with foreign nations might work against American interests. You might pause this right now and check out this quote from George Washington that kind of explains what his foreign policy was. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison debated with Hamilton over a variety of things. This chart shows the division between the Federalists and Democratic Republicans. And those were people who followed Hamilton and people that followed Jefferson. Hamilton favored the British government and opposed the French Revolution. Jefferson and Madison thought the opposite. Hamilton wanted a strong central government, and Jefferson and Madison thought such a government would lead to tyranny. Finally, Hamilton wanted an America in which trade and manufacturing and cities grew. Jefferson and Madison wanted an America of planters and farmers. So you might pause this and take a look at this chart, kind of familiarize yourself with the differences between the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. These differences on foreign and domestic policy and who should lead the country and how they should lead the country led the nation to form political parties. Now, we hear that phrase thrown around a lot, political parties, so it's important that you understand what it means. A political party is a group of people who try to promote ideas and influence the government. It also backs candidates for office. Jefferson and Madison founded the Democratic Republican Party. This party reflected their belief in democracy and the Republican system. Hamilton and his supporters formed what became known as the Federalist Party. In 1796, the Federalists chose John Adams as their candidate for president. Democratic Republicans chose Jefferson. Adams won the electoral vote for president, as you can see from this chart down here. Since the Constitution said that the runner-up should become vice president, Jefferson, Adams' chief rival, became vice president. Therefore, the country had a Federalist president in John Adams and a Democratic Republican vice president in Thomas Jefferson. So you might pause this and check out this map. See how the states voted and look at this chart down below and understand how close the vote was. It's good to read charts and maps whenever they're provided just so you can have a better understanding of what's going on. When Washington left office in 1797, relations with France were tense. The French began seizing American ships to prevent them from trading with the British. Adams sent Charles Pinckney, Elbridge Gerry, and John Marshall to Paris to meet with the French Minister of Foreign Affairs. The French ignored them until three agents, later known as Mr. X, Mr. Y, and Mr. Z, told the Americans that the minister was ready to hold talks if the Americans agreed to loan France $10 million and pay the minister a bribe. Well, of course, the Americans refused. A report of this incident was widespread and became known as the XYZ affair. In 1798, Congress canceled its treaty with France because of this and allowed American ships to seize French vessels. Congress also set aside money to expand the Navy and the Army. Well, this conflict with France made Adams and the Federalists very popular with the public. Democratic Republicans criticized the Federalists. To silence their critics, who they believed were newspaper editors and new immigrants, the Federalist Congress passed a series of laws known as the Alien and Sedition Acts, and they passed these in 1798. These acts targeted aliens who are immigrants who are not yet citizens, and there were a series of these acts, and I've listed them here below. And you can pause this and read through those to see specifically what they did. One of these acts outlawed sedition, and sedition may be a word that you haven't heard before. It means saying or writing anything false or harmful about the government. The Federalists under John Adams clamped down on the freedom of speech and freedom of the press. So if you check out this political cartoon, you can see that sedition, which again is saying things that are harmful or contrary or damaging to the government, these bills, these sedition bills, to try and stop these negative things from being said, were really a direct attack on these three symbolic things: honest opinion, free speech, and free press. So John Adams and the Alien and Sedition Acts were trying to crack down on these three things: honest opinion, free speech, and free press. Of course, that's going to aggravate a whole bunch of people. Democratic Republicans fought the Alien and Sedition Acts by developing a theory called states' rights. According to this theory, states have the right to judge, to decide for themselves when the federal government has passed what they believed was an unconstitutional law. Resolutions or statements of beliefs written by Jefferson and Madison passed in both the Kentucky and Virginia legislatures in 1798 and 1799. These stated that the Alien and Sedition Acts violated the Constitution. Now, no other states supported the resolutions, but the Alien and Sedition Acts expired or were repealed within 2 years, and the Democratic Republicans won control of Congress. But I've listed here a brief understanding of what it means, what states' rights means. So people who espouse states' rights would say that states have fundamental rights that the federal government can't take away, that the U.S. Constitution exists as an agreement between the federal government and state governments, that they have to work together, and that states can nullify federal laws that they believe to be unconstitutional, meaning that states can refuse to follow them. They can say, we don't think this law is right, therefore we're just going to disregard it altogether. Now, while states might like this, the federal government isn't going to stand for states saying that they're not going to follow federal laws. This idea of states' rights is something that you're going to hear about throughout early American history. And really, even today, there are states that believe that operating under a system of states' rights would be far better for our country and for their state. So that fight's going to continue. Earlier, we talked about fighting between the American government and the French, and battles on the seas between American ships and vessels. Well, Adams opened talks with France, and peace was ultimately made. A treaty was passed called the Convention of 1800, which cleared the way for American and French ships to sail the ocean in peace. Adams' actions made him unpopular with some and also made him many enemies. And because of that, he lost the presidential election of 1800 to Thomas Jefferson. And you'll learn more about that in the next podcast. But for now, this has been a look at the political divisions between Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson and how that led to the formation of America's first political parties. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.